How do you think music can support our mental well-being in this challenging time?
I mean, I know for me, music is a huge mode of release. It's a huge mode of expression, but I think even more so than just, talking about music, I think that creation is so important for mental health. I'm a creator. I love to express myself in multiple facets, and I think honestly that's when music became alive for me, when I took it from a place of just doing, regurgitating, and making it like realize, oh, this is my way of creating. And as people, we are meant to create. Like that's one of our sole purposes of, finding purpose in this life. And whether that comes from creating a child, or whether that comes from creating a score of music or a piece, or writing in a journal, there is so much sustainability that comes to me as a person, and connection when I feel like I can create something. And I think that is the biggest thing that connects me to my music and really has helped me in my own journey of mental health. And that's something that every single person can do. And I'm under the belief that every single person is creative. Sometimes we block that creativity because we don't think we can do it, or we don't, maybe we haven't quite found our voice yet. But I just encourage everyone to start creating. And it's amazing what will come out of that if you give yourself the ability to just free write or to express yourself in whatever form, whether it's drawing or music or singing, like whatever it is, just let yourself be a creator. And I think there's a lot of solace that comes from that.
That's a really important mention. I think inherently we probably are born to be creative beings.
Yeah.
It's in ourselves. It's part of our soul. We say that human beings have a soul, and that's a creative thing in many ways. Mm-hmm. I think that I guess some people worry about it being a mess, and I'll do it and it's gone wrong and I'll scrap it. But
right.
I guess perhaps accepting that just being creative is the process.
It is. And, you look at like an album or like that song that you just played. I mean, how many songs do I have to write that are just a mess in order to find that song that I love? I can't even tell you how many songs I have in like the trash can folder of my computer, because it was a mess, and that's okay. And I'm hard on myself when I create a mess, and I have to really go through that process of being like, it's okay. It's a part of the process. That's part of the point, is weeding out the bad in order to find the genius. Einstein created so many mistakes, he called them, in order to find the light bulb, and create electricity. It wasn't like it was his first try. He tried it thousands of times. And, just because you've gotten it wrong, 100 times doesn't mean that you're not on the verge of getting it perfect, and artistic and, whatever it is. But creation, part of it's messy. And that's why a lot of people think they're not creative. It's just because they haven't created quite enough to find their genius.
Oh, I love that. It's fantastic. And actually, obviously, in that way, there are also challenges to overcome. Clearly there are as well. How did you find the strength to overcome challenges in your own life?
I love a quote from Lucille Ball. She's one of my idols. She's I Love Lucy, for anyone who knows that show. She said, I'd rather regret the things I have done than regret the things I haven't. And it just kind of gave me this resolve as a really young girl. Also listening to the stories my dad would tell me as a little girl, it just gave me this resolve of like, I'm going to live big. I'm going to try things. And I don't want to ever live with the thought of like, what if? What if I tried? What if I'd gone for it? What could my life have been like? And so because I don't want to worry about what if, I go for it. And then it's just like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't the best road to go down. I'm going to try another one. And I'm a big believer in the big picture. I love a book by Brené Brown. I love all her books, but she has one in particular called Daring Greatly. And she talks about how if you dare greatly, if you go for your dreams in life, it's not a matter of if you fall down. It's more like when you fall down, be prepared, because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall down. You're going to feel like you failed many times along the way to living your dream and becoming your fullest self, because the goal, the road to becoming your fullest self is full of pitfalls and hardships, and making mistakes is how you learn. And so it's not like, oh, I might fail. It's like you're going to fail a lot, but that's what makes you successful, is getting up every time. And anyone who's ever succeeded has done that. I can't even tell you how many times I've messed up and been told no and been told I'm not good enough. Some of them very public. Some of them no one even has ever heard about besides me. I felt those disappointments alone. And like I said, sometimes I felt them in front of millions of people. However, the people that succeed aren't the people that never failed. They're the people that failed a lot and got up every time. And I'm a firm believer of that. So to this day, I still experience what I sometimes feel like are, oh, I failed again. I didn't make it again, or I wasn't good enough again. But then I remind myself, it's about the big picture. I've been through this before, and I will get through it again. And I just need to find my next victory.
So well, I think it's incredible, actually, because you're standing there so confidently talking about this. And I know people hold you in high regard and see you, but you're also very truthful and very honest about things. And one of our pupils wrote into the classroom talking particularly about dealing with mental health problems, but also about eating disorders. Okay.
Yeah.
And it came from Ellen down here. She wrote down here, how do you think we can reduce the stigma surrounding mental health problems, in particular eating disorders?
Yes. When I realized, oh gosh, it was like probably 12 years ago, no, longer than that, that I realized I was anorexic. That was a huge pill to swallow myself, because I was in denial for so long. I, just kept saying, no, I'm just really healthy. I run all the time and eat vegetables only because I'm healthy. And it's like, I believed this. And it's because I didn't understand what anorexia was. Like, I always just heard it meant that you were starving yourself. I didn't understand that it was like a mental disease. And, and I remember thinking, I wish more people would talk about this and talk about that it's not like crazy people have anorexia or crazy people have anxiety or insane people go through severe depression or bipolar. It's like, no, this is something that I think at one time or another in people's life, most people will go through one, if not multiple, of these mental disorders. And it's a part of life. It's a part of growing. And it's so common. And yet we're all so afraid to talk about it. Myself included, when I first realized I was anorexic, I didn't tell my best friends. I didn't tell my sisters. I remember I told one person, and that was my mom. I needed someone. But then as I became more comfortable with myself and I went through recovery, and multiple times, mind you. And now I live in a very comfortable place with my relationship with my body and food. And it's something I'll have to work on for the rest of my life. I just have to kind of keep it at bay. But it doesn't control me, and it never will. I will never let it control me again. And I think making the dialogue open about that this is something that we can talk about is something I now talk about super openly with my fans. It's something I talk about with my friends openly, my relationship with my body and the work that I put into self-love. And and I think that it's especially hard to talk about it when you feel like you haven't figured it out yet. And it's not something I would ever recommend people like openly talk about before you figured it out in yourself. However, it's so important to find people you trust and people that you can let into that space. And, you have to be really careful about who you let in. And then once you're feeling okay about it, it should be an open dialogue that we all have, I think, and it's something that's for every person to decide when they're ready to openly talk about it. But once you get to that place where you're okay with your body and you've let the people in that you trust and you're ready to step outside that, become a part of the solution for not only yourself, but for other people, and openly express that this is something we all have to face at one point in our life. And that it's not something we have to be ashamed of, because the more we hide it, the more shameful it becomes. And for anyone who's struggling with this, I recommend researching it. I recommend reading books. I read a book called Life Without Ed that helped me immensely. I went to therapy, individual and group therapy. I attacked my anorexia with the fervor of it as if it was my full-time job. And at the time I had a job and I was a student, but you better believe I spent so much time working on myself, like with mental exercises, reading books, podcasts, all the things. I treated it like it was my other school, so that I could get to a point to not only feel okay about myself, but I could talk about it.
I think I'm just actually sort of taken aback by how you talk about this and how you're able to put it across. And you're not scared to talk about your vulnerability on there. And I think the important message there was finding people around you can trust, and then you can open up, isn't it? So I mean, there will be people tuned in that and this is just anybody that could be struggling with this, and I just implore them to take on board your message, to go forward with that, and let's make this something we can talk about. This is not an issue. It's not in a box somewhere. Mental health issues, anorexia. We can talk about this, and it's fine. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, and I just also want to give hope. I remember when I was anorexic, I was devastated when I realized that this disease not only was a part of me, but when I started to realize it was controlling my life. It had made me hate myself. I hated my body. I hated life. I was so depressed because of this. And I remember feeling hopeless is the best way I can describe it. However, that has changed as I started to work on myself. And so I want to give you guys a message of pure hope that no matter where you're at today, no matter if you hate yourself, or if you feel like your emotions are out of control, or you just feel like you can't change, get that out of there. Because change is possible, whether you're reaching for your dreams and chasing the dream of being a dancing electronic violinist, or whether you're just saying, I have a dream of being happy and loving myself and seeing myself through eyes of acceptance. If that is your dream, I promise you change is possible. It all starts in our minds. Our minds are incredibly powerful. And like I said, I actually approached my career similarly to what I learned from approaching healing myself through anorexia. It all began in my mind with a vision of what I wanted to be. And so I just want to encourage you guys to visualize the life that you want. See it, because what we focus on is what we naturally move towards. Like if you're imagining things that are negative and focusing on pessimism, you will naturally live a life that is more negative and pessimistic, and you will draw energy to you that is in that same realm. However, if you are positive, if you practice thinking positively and using the optimistic side of your brain, it literally can happen that becomes your default setting. But it all comes from tiny, tiny acts of practice. The same way I practiced the violin for years, I practiced being positive. I write in a gratitude journal every night. I practice visualizing and positive thinking. These are simple ways that you can literally change your life and change the way you feel about yourself and change your trajectory of where your goals will take you.
That's really powerful, actually, and very, very important. I mean, they're most definitely in our mindsets. There are some things negative to get hold of us, and they can dominate our vision and dominate our visioning of this. And you're absolutely right. That positive vision, that positive steps are so key. So amazing. Thank you. I've got a question now coming in from Sam, a live question. Sam, are you online still to have a chat to? Can we see you online? I can see him coming on board. I can see a picture coming up. Sam, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi, Sam. Can we see you as well?
Are you there?
Are you there, Sam? I can hear you. Can I see you somewhere? Is the camera coming
Hello.
on? Can you turn the camera on?
Sam.
Hey, Sam, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Well, it's a good day for you because you're live with Lindsey right now.
Yes, I am indeed. Hello.
Hello.
Sam, you got a question for him?
Yes, I do have a question. It's a bit about your music, I think, and I guess the question is, how can listening to a lot of sort of different genres of music, as in, you've got a bit of the classical, a bit of the electronic, in the mix, how can listening to that create sort of different emotions and change someone's feelings and affect someone's mood? And I know people, and especially me, am really affected by music, and it makes, changes the way you feel, and it helps you sort of move away from somewhere that you don't really want to be. And I guess the question is, how does different genres of music change your perception of difficult situations?
Yeah, music is such a powerful tool for emotional response, and really is pretty awesome that well, I think in anything, choice is such an important thing to remember, that we have the choice to where we're going to stay. I think it's really important to feel things and let yourself feel the hard emotions that you need to feel. But then once you're kind of like, all right, time to get up, time to move past whatever this is that I have felt and I've accepted, or whatever hard emotion it is, music is a great pivot point to say, okay, I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to stop feeling sorry for myself in this moment, or whatever it is, and turn on something that makes you feel, what you want to feel. Like put on, Empire of the Sun, if you want to feel alive and happy, and, and if you do want to just sit in a moment and really feel you know, the sorrow of something. You can play something that allows you to like be true to your emotion that you're feeling and feel it. I love meditation music. I think that helps me like calm down sometimes when I'm a little bit agitated. Like music can be a huge support to like support your emotions, or to try to like counter your emotions if you're like, all right, time to get out of this space, time to change my anxiety, time to get out of bed, whatever it is.
That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that as well, and thank you, Sam, for that question.
Yes, thank you, Sam.
Now, Lindsey, we're coming towards the end of your time now in the classroom. Thanks for being with us hugely. Is there a closing message from yourself to share with children around the world before we sign you out?
You know, I think that piggybacking off what we just talked about, the power of choice, the power of choice that we always have. I think that abundance and lack of abundance exist in our lives as parallel realities at all times, and it's up to us to decide what we're going to turn to. Are we going to turn to the lack that we have and the things we've lost? Or are we going to turn to the beauty that surrounds us and the things we have? Are we going to look at the silver linings? Are we going to look at the things we're grateful for that we still have? And, you know, one of the most powerful moments where I'm sorry, I'm going to get emotional here.
It's okay.
One of the most powerful moments where I learned this so ingrained was when my dad was passing away. And he struggled with cancer for several years. It was one of the hardest things I've ever been through, to watch him deteriorate. And as he was we knew he was in his last moments, and my sisters and my mom and I all sat around his hospital bed, and we just like couldn't even speak to each other because we were like, there was nothing to say. And then one of my sisters was like, let's tell stories of Dad, because he was unconscious and we didn't know if he could hear us, but we thought maybe he could. So for him, we started telling our favorite memories of him, and before you know it, we were laughing and we were crying, and I was filled with so much gratitude in that moment, and love, like one of the most powerful moments of love I've ever felt, as I was losing my father, because suddenly, more so than being angry at what I was losing, I was so grateful for what I had, for this amazing father that had raised me, for my family that surrounded me, and for the love that I believe will always be there for me, not only from my family, but through him. I believe in angels. I believe that the universe is trying to help us. And I like to choose that rather than being angry at the father that I lost, or feeling like the world is out to get me sometimes. It's so easy to sometimes fall into choosing that reality, but there is always a reality over here that we have the opportunity to choose and to say, today I'm choosing to be grateful. Today I'm choosing to be positive. I'm choosing to see light rather than darkness, because they always exist, both of them. And by choosing more often gratitude, you will live a happier life, regardless of where you live, where you're from, who you are, whatever.